That's my grandfather, a man I never met. He died in 1936, long before I was born. I knew virtually nothing about him, except that he was a doctor who lived in Cradley Heath in the Black Country. But I've recently discovered that in 1908 he was a founder member of the Cradley Heath and Old Hill District Amateur Operatic Society and its first president. More than 100 years later, it's still going strong, now known as Chaos. Hilda Faulkner, the current chairman of Chaos, has been in post for the past 26 years, and they've just picked up 4 awards for their last production, Me and My Girl.
Got to take more water with it?
The problem with this is to stop it going wide. If you sort of can you be diagonally in?
Rehearsals have started in earnest for their latest production, Strictly Chaos, a musical revue.
So wherever we've got arms, so you might be like this with one arm. Lean with one arm.
Producer and choreographer Sally is Hilda's granddaughter.
And just make sure Tom sort of stays centre, you can lean over him. It's all right. Can you play the instrumental bit, please?
What were you doing? Just watching it. This is my Cradley, and this is Sara Tibbetts, who is the granddaughter of our first president. And I believe you've got stuff.
They've even found an old newspaper about my grandfather.
Yeah. There you are. Tom Tibbetts, the good doctor of Cradley Heath.
Oh gosh, I haven't seen that.
From my chance meeting with Hilda, I felt an immediate connection. Then, incredibly, I learnt that my uncle, who was also a doctor in the area, had delivered her when she was born. I'm on my way to Hilda's. She says she's been digging around and found her great-grandfather's diary.
There's a Tibbetts in there. John Tibbetts, described as a butcher, killed his wife Elizabeth by cutting her throat and then turning the weapon on himself and cutting his throat at Rowley on Friday morning, 1903.
But it gets worse.
Broomfield Kelly Cope met with his death on Saturday night at Samuel Tibbetts' pork sausage factory. It is supposed that while sitting upon the fencing around the revolving machinery, the deceased overbalanced himself and fell into the flywheel at Cradley Heath, and that was 1894. Joseph Homer stole the tortoise out of our gardens at Loamy Town. This must have been my great-grandfather writing this on Sunday, July the 22nd, 1923.
And even more Tibbetts? What does that say?
Mary Tibbett and John Priest were married at Ailes Owen, which I was a priest. Thomas Priest, Loamy Town. Ah, we're in the same family.
Yeah.
Ah, we are, aren't we? Now, I found that out, you see.
I did feel rather connected to you.
That then. Ah.
Despite these gruesome tales of my family, Hilda was still happy to show me around Cradley Heath. I wanted to get a sense of the area where my grandfather made his calls.
It used to be a lovely little place. Now this was the Majestic Cinema, and here, the next building, this was the Cross Guns, and then next to it was Tibbetts' The Butchers. No, we've got to go straight down here, past Liddell. Liddell was on the area where I was born.
In 1937, when Hilda was 5, she moved across the road from Liddell's car park to the Swan, the pub which her parents ran for the next 21 years.
Coming home. The times I've walked down here. And I've looked at the window up there. That was my bedroom window. 76 Lower High Street. That was what it was. Hello there.
How you doing?
All right, thank you, Philip.
Yes, Mark, I am.
Mark, oh, hello. Hello,
you?
Mark. I'm very pleased to meet you.
And you?
Coming through these portals is...
Welcome home.
Yeah, thank you. That's just what I said.
Come on in.
Well, that is the same.
An old tramp was resting one day down a lane when a lot of young sportsmen came by. They passed many Jones on his tattered old clothes.
They used to have the barrels were all on both sides of here.
Yeah.
You know, banging the bungs in. In the latter years, my mother used to do pork sandwiches. And we always used to cut them down here because it was a lovely,
Nice and
lovely,
cool, yeah.
fresh
Yeah.
place to keep them. Stood in this window, platoon of men in army uniform came from the station. They were the Royal Marines band who were playing for the local amateur operatic society's show. And then I thought, oh, I'd love to go on the stage. I'd love to go and sing. Because my father played the piano, so I always loved to sing anyway. This was where it started. I saw the band coming up from the station.
At the beginning of the 20th century, in my grandfather's time, Cradley Heath was the world's largest producer of industrial chain. Virtually everybody in the community was involved in chain making in one way or another. Both Hilda's grandfathers were chain makers. One of them even made links for the Titanic.
That was where the yard was, as they used to call it, the yard. Oh dear.
Griffin Woodhouse, formerly known as Griffin, was just over the road from the pub.
This is a big chain manufacturers, and Runner used to bring a dobbin with empty bottles, put it on the step outside the pub, and my mother had to fill those bottles for their breakfast. And then when they finished, a lot of them used to come in for their hour after finishing work, considering they'd started at 6 o'clock. They'd been on since 6 o'clock. And then they would have 1 or 2 pints.
Get the tongs in.
This film, made in 1958, is about Joe Mallon, a chainsmith who worked at Griffin's.
I could sit and watch this forever. Shutting links. It was hard work. You can understand why they like their ale. I mean, you can understand it.
Oh, there's old Joe.
And I dare say there was 100 people at work at our factory.
How are you going round there? He always wore his cap at an angle.
And some years ago, since my father gave me good advice, never be licked. That's never let your wife get boss of you. Never let your neighbour get too near your backbone. That is, have plenty to eat and drink. And the last thing he told me was never to fight after I was 50.
Joe Mallon also ran the Cross Guns up the road from Hilda's, but he was best known for his Staffordshire Bull Terriers, a dog closely associated with the Black Country. One of his dogs, Gentleman Jim, was the first Staffy champion at Crufts.
Joe Mallon, Stokecock Pride, one of his dogs. With his other arm, he's got his fighting cock. This is my granddad, Bill Taylor.
Steve Martin is a respected member of the Staffordshire Bull Terrier Club.
That's Brindle Bill. He was full little brother to Gentleman Jim. When you talk about Staffords, everybody knows Gentleman Jim. He was like one of the main founders of the M line. A lot of people in Cradley Heath said Brindle Bill was a better dog than Gentleman Jim. But we'll leave that discussion for another night.
Joe Mallon was instrumental in getting Staffies recognised as a breed by the Kennel Club in 1935.
They was fighting dogs, and the spirit is still in them. If a Stafford is cornered, the fighting dog will come out. Years gone by, in the week, they'd have them at home, they'd be lying in the front of the fire playing with the kids, and then weekends or nights, some of them used to fight them.
Right, walk nice. Walk nice now. Very good boy. Walk nice, please. Walk nice now. Come on then. Come on then. Go on. Good boy. Wait, wait.
I first met Dave and Kirsty
Wait.
Molyneux of the
Hold on.
Staffordshire Bull Terrier Club. Staffies have become a passion for them, and they spend virtually every weekend at dog shows.
Go. Come on. Good boy. Good girl. Good girl, woo woo. Come on. Here it is. Come on then. Go on. Go on then. Summer.
I didn't come from the best of families. There was 10 of us. You know, my father wasn't the best person to bring up one child, let alone 10. So my mum was really the one that held the whole family together. She didn't want me really, basically, is the fact of the matter. So my nan stepped in and I was very much nanny reared. And also I think the violence that was going on in the household as well, it was kind of a bit of a rescue. And a lot of us, as kids, got split up. A few went to children's homes and so on, and yeah. It was my first week in school, and the headmaster called me over. Boy, asked me my name, and I told him his name. And he looked me up and down and said, "You're shit, you are. You're shit like the rest of the shit you come from, and you'll be in the gutter, and you'll end up in the gutter, shoveling shit like the shit you belong in."
Dave has felt a special bond with Staffies since childhood.
I was born with one. We had a Staffordshire Bull Terrier, Paddy, and he was brindle, and he was fantastic. And every time my dad raised his hand like that, he had him. So if he was ever going to hit us, he'd put the dog out first.
Is class 8, which is the postgraduate...
Cradley Heath is where the Staffordshire Bull Terrier began at the Cross Guns. So the Staffordshire Bull Terrier Club is known as the parent club, and it was the first club founded in 1935.
You know what, Dave? I bought a toilet roll. You're on the committee, mate. Yeah.
When you stand. Come on, girl. Stand now. Stay. No. Winnie, stand. Stay. Stay. And stand. Stand.
Dave is showing
Stay.
Winnie their 6-month-old puppy.
Stay.
It's only her 3rd show, but Dave has high hopes for her.
The President's Trophy can be judged by the President of the Club, Barbara Beaufoy. Do we have the following coloring, please? Class 12, numbers 18, 35,
Come on.
and 38.
Winnie. Come on then. There's a good girl. And stand. And stand there. And stand. And stand. Stay. Stay. Stay.
Dave and Kirsty's neighbour, Kira, is as mad about staffies as they are.
And stand. And stand. Don't pay up. And stand. And stand. And stand. And stand. That's a good.
Ultimately, it's a beauty contest, but within the standard, it does say of an indomitable courage and tenacious, and so you want to see a little bit of a spark, a little bit of fire, a little spark, a little twinkle in their eye, little like, who are you looking at?
Winnie, come on. And turn. Come on. Turn. Walk nice. Walk slow. Good.
Results of Class 12 Minor Puppy Bitch. First, number 38.
Number 38. That's Dave.
Second, number 35. Third, number 18.
It's a good girl. Winnie, what's stay? Stay. Oh, he's a good girl. That's a girl. She's a good girl.
It is down to handling, because a more experienced handler, you know, I'm very, very new at it. I'm a newbie, because it is a craft that I'm going to have to learn. When you get more experience, there are things in a dog that you can hide, and there's things that you can do to make that dog look fantastic.
Best in show is the bitch, exhibit number 32.
Although I've got completely caught up with the staffies, I still want to learn more about my grandfather.
Dr. Tibbetts set about attracting custom. He would walk along Cradley Heath High Street on market day, immaculately dressed in top hat and frock coat, carrying his bag and wearing his stethoscope around his neck. There goes Dr. Tibbetts on another case, people would say, as he strode along, apparently busy. His scheme worked, and soon the doctor had a thriving business.
And he was soon gathering patients by the dozen.
Dr. Tibbetts also had the first car in Cradley Heath, which apparently he used to drive around with a fold-up operating table in the boot. As medical officer for Quarry Bank, Dr. Tibbetts was a tireless campaigner against the overcrowding and bad sanitation that blighted the lives of many. He had a real compassion for the people he administered to and eased their pain, grieved with them, heartened them and gave advice, and in some particularly hard cases he even paid the rent of his patients.
It was a relief to finally hear the Tibbetts name mentioned in a good light. I went back to the chaos rehearsals. I couldn't help wondering what Dr. Tibbetts would have made of the latest chaos production.
Okay, you ready?
This is Josh, whose great-grandmother Alice is one of Chaos's greatest fans.
When he comes on, he's laughing. And when he gets to when it's finished and they've done the dance, he goes, it must say, that was hard going. But he got through it and I'll say to him, are you going on again? I don't know, Nan. And I says, you've got to follow your mum, because she's got no girls to follow, but she's got you. That's lovely. And I'll say to her, Josh, now if you're more right on that show, I shall give you £5. And it boosts him up. Well, you've got to reward them, haven't you?
Hello.
Hello, Jim.
How you doing?
I'm all right.
Josh's mum, Sarah, is Alice's granddaughter.
And how's the show going?
It's just starting to come together now. We're kind of just remembering all the different bits.
Oh,
so
good.
it's starting to shape up.
How's Josh?
Yes, he's very good.
Is he?
Yes, nice and lively as ever.
Alice was a chainmaker for nearly 50 years, from the age of 14. Sarah even had a chance to see her grandmother at work.
I can just remember it was really dark and you all had your own little area to work in, and there was a funny kind of smell, and there were sparks flying everywhere.
Yes,
with the and all the orange hot metal.
Yes.
And it was just totally different to anything I've ever seen.
What were they making the chain for?
Well, it was Admiralty. We used to do the smaller chain. You've seen it round the harbours and things like that. When I've got, this is number so and so. This is, and we used to have a fella come from the Admiralty, and he used to. The boss would have to be there and test the chain to show him it had got to be perfect. And if it broke, he was in trouble. I mean, they worked hard, and the sweat would, and the sparks would fly in. I know it was dirty, it wasn't a clean job. You'd have to wear aprons, wrap your feet up, because one day one went in my shoe and I put my foot on it and I had a burn.
In the early 20th century, there were thousands of women chainmakers in Cradley Heath. Their pay and conditions were appalling. In 1910, 1,000 women downed their hammers to strike for a living wage. After 10 weeks, they won their fight for the first national minimum wage in history. My grandfather would have witnessed all this, and almost certainly tended to some of the strikers.
I was in the union, and I can remember paying a fee, and the boss, we went mad. He didn't like that. Well, he'd never give us a rise. But we all stuck together, and he gave us a rise after.
No one knows where the Black Country is, and everybody thinks Birmingham is the Black Country, or the Black Country is Birmingham, or is the Black Country Staffordshire, or where is it? And I think it's kind of the best kept secret, and only when you're part of the Black Country and you live in the Black Country and you work in the Black Country that you understand that the Black Country just kind of is, and it is almost the collection of people that work in it, more so than its geographical boundary, really, and it's definitely not Birmingham.
Tim Tolkien was first drawn to the Black Country in the 1990s and has now made Cradley Heath his home.
They didn't do anything other than work, did they? They just got up in the morning and they worked and they went to sleep, and that's all they did. That was their existence, really, and it was only an existence. You couldn't say people lived in those times, but that whole engine turned the world into the manufacturing modern world that it is today. just finding my feet as a young sculptor out of college, and I just started working in metal and very quickly found out it was a great place to be if you wanted to work in metal. You could buy all the sheet metals, you could buy all the strip metals, you could buy rivets, you could buy everything you needed, and it's a brilliant place to be if you're a metal basher. Like a lot of the nature reserves around this area, this used to be the mine. This used to be Saltwell's colliery. There were railway tracks here. This would have looked like a black cesspit with slag heaps. So that was 50 years ago, 60 years ago, living memory. If you want to know where to do something or how to do something, there's always somebody that you can ask, and somebody knows somebody that knows somebody. So casting, rolling, machining, it's all around here, and you can get anything done.
Out of the 100 original chain factories in Cradley Heath, Griffin Woodhouse is one of the few that has survived. Owner David Timington has been here for over 50 years.
It's a family thing. I mean, my family's been in it for 200 years. My father made chain, my grandmother made chain, and my mother used to stand by the chain block when my grandmother was making chain. In fact, she had a scar on her shoulder here of a chain link, which happened when my grandmother was making chain, and the tongue slipped and the fluid flew up in the air down the back of her dress, and my grandmother quickly ripped it open and the link dropped. But she had the shape of a scar of a link on her shoulder for the whole of her life.
Brian Cartwright has been at Griffin Woodhouse nearly as long as his boss.
When I started originally in 1969, there was roughly around about 130, 135. That was the test house, the chipping area, the forge, and then there was the maintenance and the machine shop. Everything was done, everything we made was done in-house.
Before the First World War, the area produced 80% of the world's chains. Today, 80% of the world's chains are produced in China. Different.
It was quite a sight in its day, to be quite honest. When I was younger, I was a bit wayward. My dad, he knowed the foreman in the machine shop, Wes, and he asked him to get me a job, which he did. And as I said, the rest is history. I've been here ever since. And I started in the machine shop, then I come down the bottom end, I worked my way up onto the chain, onto the forge, and then eventually into the office.
In the 70s, we started to see industry disappearing and cheap imports. Our traditional industries were closing down one by one. Shipyards, the steelworks, and the Navy was getting smaller. The whole thing sort of changed almost overnight. And I realised that if we didn't find some new customers, and the only customers I could see were in other parts of the world, we wouldn't survive. So I jumped on planes and went on trade missions and did everything I could to establish customers and agents around the world.
By the early 1980s, with heavy industry and the Black Country decimated, unemployment had reached 25%, double the national average.
There was nothing up here. In the 80s, absolutely nothing. Norman Tebbit said, get on your bike, didn't he? So I did. What a disaster that was. A year and a half I was homeless on the Isle of Wight. You had the miners' strike. All of a sudden, something that working class could do, right, if they felt oppressed or they felt that something was going wrong, the very fact that they could turn around and say, you know what, I'm not taking this anymore. I'm going to peacefully demonstrate and show you that I don't have to work under those circumstances. That very fabric of our class was stripped away from us. Robbed. We were robbed of that voice. Now, she brought in, Thatcher I'm talking about, she made it illegal for any more than 8 people to gather in a public place, right? So if you were raving, which I did quite often, police come and shut you down and took away all the music. If you were striking, the police came in with their batons and beat you up. But the Women's Institute could still meet. It was clearly a class war. She was saying the same thing that the headmaster said to me on my first day at senior school. You're shite. I drifted into wayward life, didn't I? I mean, it wasn't going to end nice, was it? Let's be fair. It was never going to end, positively. You get a defining moment in your life, don't you? And you go, I must do this now. Or you let that pass you by. I did my AS level in English. I did business studies. And I got Pitman's and a City and Guilds in pure mathematics and got it with distinction. From then I went to college and did an AAT, which was 3 years. Then, because it's a diploma, I could go on to university and did my Chartered Institute of Management Accountants.
It's a good girl, Evis. It's a good girl. Good wait. Oh no.
Right. Summer, come on. Summer. Don't like it, do you, Abby?
Professional tailoress all her life, Hilda is not only chairman of Chaos, but also wardrobe mistress.
We need some dicky bows for the men. So should we get some gold?
Well, what about the gold I've got?
Have you got some gold?
Yeah.
That spangly gold?
Yeah.
That weird stuff?
It's weird stuff, but...
Will it make dicky bows?
It make dicky bows.
What about waistbands for us girls?
Tonight, it's the dress rehearsal.
Right, can I just... Oh, God. I don't really need that on, do I? Just a few little, only tiny little things, just things to remember and things to just think about as we go through, because last night was brilliant for a tech run. I know the costumes and everything helped, and it was so late when we started, so just things to remember. Everybody is your left one, and this side is your right one when you point. All right. Emma, you know when we're doing around here, and you do your talking, do you stay facing the front? So just keep smiling, especially if there's numbers where, the happy numbers, really, really smiling.
If I could just have a quick word, I just want to reiterate what Sally was saying about the men. The singing is fine, it's just the balance is wrong. There's not enough sound from the men, especially when you're singing your solo line. I just want more sound from the men, please.
Since Dave qualified as an accountant, he's never been short of work, but things haven't all been plain sailing for him.
Kirsty came from Marlborough and she was taking a year off and stayed with her dad in Cheltenham. And she was working behind the bar in Harvester. She bent over and she had Jack Will's pants on, you know, it showed the band. I went, "Oh, Jack Willis." And I always wear sunglasses. Cause I said, "Oh, Jack Willis." And she turned and she said, "Jack Wills, actually." I went, "Oh, I knew." "Oh, is that one?" Yes, she said. And off she went and didn't really take a shine to me, to be honest. I thought, "Oh, that's a pretty girl," but, you know, obviously an age gap there.
He used to wear this nice suit when he come into the pub, and it was all designer then, all designer clothes. You wouldn't have ever thought he'd have had 4 Staffords jumping up him, covered in mud. No. He sometimes walks over the park now in his posh trainers.
You know, when there's a big age gap between two people, you do kind of go, pretty, but, and you it's kind of like, you know, it's like walking past a Monet and going, "Oh, I really like that." You know you're never going to own it, but you admire it. It's the same, isn't it? But I'm always like that with girls, if I'm honest with you. I always think they're out my league.
We went camping over in Wales, and when we went to set up the tent in a big area, he was quite stroppy with me. I thought, "Oh, this is a bit odd, what's rattled his cage?" Kind of ignored him because he gets like that sometimes. Ended up putting the tent up, we were all settled, just about to go off down the beach, and he gets on one knee in front of everybody. I'm looking at him like, "You silly sod, get up." Asked me to marry him, and I said yes, and well, everyone cheered.
We got married last year. It was an amazing day, wasn't it? Best day of my life. We got married and then came back, and about 3 weeks later I was diagnosed with cancer. It's difficult for the sufferer, but it's equally as difficult for the person who's there, because it's quite a life-changing event, you know, and there's so many things that can happen. So to say that she's extraordinary is an understatement, because without her, I possibly wouldn't be here now. She showed more guts, more determination and more maturity than any person 3 times her age. I'm very lucky.
Dave is here with his 2-year-old dog, Max.
His mood's extremely good today. He was very bouncy all morning. But I think he knows, he sees me get my suit and he knows it's a big show. And then he'll go and check himself out in the mirror before we leave. Have a little look at himself and off he goes. There's going to be 21 other dogs in the class. And the first 5 get picked out, top 5 get picked out. So, but the very fact that you're here is just, you know, it's a privilege.
He's an absolute mess on a crop day, right from the week before probably, until he's been on, and then he'll calm down. Yeah. You'll see him go in there, he'll be sweating and shaking. Fidgets with him, and he's got a habit of getting in the way of the judge as well. does it all the time, doesn't he? Drives me potty.
And how does he feed you?
Moves Max's feet all the time.
Look, yeah, constantly. If Max is in the right place, he'll just get it and move it, and then he'll put it in the wrong place. So.
21 in the class, so I'm not expecting anything.
Sure.
Dave's been shortlisted with Max. He's come third.
Oh, critique of course.
Next year.
Around about 2000, 2001, the Navy, who was a big customer of ours, was having some refits done of two of the Falklands War ships, the Galahad and the Tristan. We were supposed to get the order, £500,000 worth of business. It didn't happen. They gave it to China. They liked our quality, but like the Chinese price better, it was less than half our price. I won't tell you what kind of quality they got and what trouble they got into, but it was a total disaster. But it was too late. We made 50 men redundant, and that was it. And we sort of scaled right down.
Take it around it. Okay, I'm on.
We had to reinvent ourselves, so we concentrated on doing product that the Chinese couldn't do or didn't want to do. If we'd have carried on trying to do what we were doing, we would have gone out of business like everyone else did. There was no alternative but to reinvent yourself.
Griffin Woodhouse's survival is down to innovation and specialisation. They no longer mass produce, but concentrate on design and making highly specialised mooring systems for oil rigs and tankers.
The actual finished product this is now. This is a chase chain with, as you can see, it's all finished now, blacked, tested, ready for shipping out.
William Hackett Chain is another of the survivors in Cradley Heath. They also recognised the need to adapt and invested in automation at the right time. They now import bulk chain, chop it up, make specialised links and assemble it to order.
We got to the point where it was cheaper to buy the chain in than it was to buy the material to actually manufacture. There was a few laid off. We've seen some odd times here, and we have. But as I say, these past few years, we just seem to be growing again. We seem to be growing. There seems to be, more and more demand for it.
granddad, my dad, my sisters worked here, my aunties worked here, my great uncles worked here, my younger brother worked here, my nephew. They still work together here now. I work in the warehouse. I'd like my son to come and work here, keep the tradition up.
In the last 10 years, if they've survived and specialised and survived also this latest recession, they've got a lot going for them. Because the one thing you can say about the Black Country people, they're resilient if nothing else. They fight for their future. And I can see a bright future.
It's the first night of Strictly Chaos. For Hilda, it's her 50th year as a member of the society.
You all right? Yeah, she's
just happens to be up this way.
This is what's called gilding the lily. As I've told you all before, if you gild the lily, they forget about the bottom part of you.
Maggie is here again to remind us all still further forwards, all right? Okay. So just...
And you know where the mics are on the side?
Yeah.
As near to those as you can get if you're in...
Sarah takes
So yes, we shall see.
Cheers, thanks.
Where's my frock?
No,
I've got it.
It's the waft.
Seen him today, and I couldn't ask him what he sings and what he does. Don't ask him, it's going to be a surprise.
No.
I wonder, if I hadn't discovered that my grandfather was the first president of Chaos, would I ever have known where I came from?
Now, what would grandfather have thought about this?
What do you think?
Oh, I think he would be very proud of something that he started all those years ago when he was our first president. Many, many years ago. I think he would be highly delighted.